Merry Meet. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are working a psalm spell today, and today we are working on Psalm number 55, and there's a lot of traditional uses for Psalm 55, but the one we're working on today is to alleviate worry or banish worry. So we are working this psalm, we're working a magical spell to alleviate worry. Now, when we are asking to alleviate worry, that doesn't mean that we're just asking to put our heads in the sand. We're asking to alleviate not only the worry, but the reason for the worry. So we are asking to be lifted out of all situations, all consequences, and all reasons for worry. All right, so the way we work these spells are very, very easy. We take this psalm that we're working and we read it all the way through out loud once without stopping. And then we go back through the psalm and we take it slowly, verse by verse, and we search within each verse and find hidden, secret, occult, magical meanings that are lying dormant in there. They are seeds or packets of seeds that by searching for them and digging for them and finding them, we are actually taking those seeds and planting them in our deep mind through this art of contemplation. And those seeds take root in the fertile ground of our deepest mind, and they bear fruit after their kind. They really grow like trees or vines and bear fruit after their kind. And psalm magic is very powerful and very effective, and it works by reconditioning our mind so that we have new causes, and therefore we then achieve new effects in our lives. And to recondition the mind, it's important to keep coming back to whatever psalm we're working again and again and again until we can start to see some actual definite proof that things are moving at least in the right direction. And today we are, like I said, working on Psalm 55 for overcoming or alleviating worry. So let's do that right now. So here we go with Psalm 55. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. And I said, Oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then I would fly away and be at rest. Lo, then would I wander far off and remain in the wilderness, Selah. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. For it was not an enemy that reproached me. Then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me, that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked unto the house of God in company. Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings, and among them. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Selah, because they have no changes. Therefore they fear not God. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. But thou, O God, shalt bring them down in the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out their days, but I will trust in thee. Well, my goodness, there's a lot going on there. Let's get right to it here. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Okay, who's God? We're talking about God of the Psalms, the Lord of the Psalms. And remember always that this is a pre-gendered deity. This is not an ancient tribal deity. This is this is the Godhead. This is the life force itself. It has only life, only righteousness, only truth. There's only one. There's only one power. There's only one source. There's only one substance. There's but one force in all of the universe, and that's what we are calling on here. And we are saying, give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. When we start a prayer out with that, or a spell out with that, we know that we are on the wrong beam to begin with, but at least we are headed in the right direction, because we know that we don't have to ask this force to give ear, because this force never doesn't understand, never doesn't know what's happening. It's all knowing. So it's not like it's unaware of who we are and what we're going through. And when we say, and hide not thyself from my supplication, we know that God doesn't hide itself from us, or doesn't say no to our requests. The problem isn't that our prayers aren't being answered, it's that we're not praying rightly. We oftentimes ask for nothing, and then we get nothing in return. So when we say, attend to me and hear me, I mourn in my complaint and make a noise, well, right, so God wants us to be relieved from our pain. God wants us to be relieved from our affliction. But when we pray like that, we are asking for God to see something that's not there. And God can't do that for us. God doesn't see us as afflicted. God knows that we are not afflicted. And God knows that God understands that we are afflicted. God understands that we're not at peace. But if God were to see our affliction, that would make it real. And God can't make something real that's not real. So we are learning how to ask for the right thing in this psalm. And here's how it works. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. Okay, what is the voice of the enemy? Well, we know that we have two different specific voices in our heads. One is the voice of truth. That is the voice that God put there for us. So it always guides us to the right place. Tells us where to go, what to do, how to get there, never fails. And then there's the voice that we put there. That's the voice of our own ego. But then we don't want to take responsibility for the fact that we put that voice there, so we pretend it's not there, and we act like that voice is coming from somewhere else. And the voice of the enemy and the oppression of the wicked, casting iniquity upon us and wrath because they hate me, that's our own self. That's our own cleverness used against us. That's what the ego is. That's our own creativity used as a weapon against ourselves. Because at some point or another, we decided we were separate from our source. And if you're separate from your source, there's no longer one, there's two. There's no longer one source. Now there's the source plus everything else, plus something else. It's the something else that's the error. And that something else is something that we've hidden from God. And God doesn't understand this something else because God understands that something else can't exist. So we're understanding that voice that is out to get us is something that we placed there, and now we don't want to admit that. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Well, that's exactly what our creativity does for us when it's not aligned with our righteousness. It runs amok. It runs amok in us. And we project it all over the place. It looks like we have many problems out there. It looks like everything out there is coming to get us. We don't ever want to accept the fact that, no, we put those things there. That's us. We're doing that. We're doing that because we've turned our back on who we are. We've turned our back on why we're here. We've turned our back on our source. And then we don't want to be honest with the fact that we've done that. And we say, oh, I'm a victim. Right? And I'm not saying that nobody's a victim in this world. Of course, there are victims in this world. We're looking at things very, very metaphysically. We're actually beyond metaphysically. We're looking at things magically. We're looking at things as what they really are. You can either listen to the voice of your ego or to the voice for God. You can't listen to both. It's impossible. So when you're listening to that other voice, fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. Well, duh. That's what you get. That's what happens. Those are those worries. Those worries are manufactured by that ego to keep us stuck, to keep us separate, to keep us feeling separate. And I said, oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then I would fly away and be at rest. That's the fantasy, right? The fantasy that we want. I don't want to face this. I don't want to look at the fact that I had anything to do with this. I just want to run away. Boy, if I could just have wings of a dove, I'd be so peaceful and I'd fly away and everything would be okay. Well, you don't need wings like a dove to fly away. You have your own wings to fly, and you have nothing to fly away from. You have nothing to fly away from. Everything that you're trying to fly away from is that of your own making, which the good news is it can't really exist anyway. It's just a nightmare. So you're at least you're coming to the source to help get through this, but you got to go through what we're going through in the psalm to get to the other side of it. Then it would said, lo, then I would wander far off and remain in the wilderness, Selah. Now, that's a smart thing to do, right? Wander far off from your problems and just remain in the wilderness. No, God doesn't want you in the wilderness. God wants you home, where you are right now. You're already home. You're sleeping in home, and you're having a bad dream. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Yeah, you want to hasten your escape from the dream. But you can't wake yourself up from the dream. You can't. You need help from your source, who wants to wake you up from the dream, and this is going to happen in a gentle, loving way. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Okay, so this is actually a good thing. Asking our source, destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues. All those voices within us that are trying to make real that which is unreal and trying to distract us and keep us away from our good, we are asking that those tongues be silenced. We're asking that those tongues be divided. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. We're talking about in the city. Well, what's the city? The city is your life. The city is your mind and all aspects of your life. The city is where you dwell. Now, it's supposed to be a holy city, but the holy cities come under siege. And it's come under siege by your own alien thought forms. Alien thought forms. Just letting it run amok. Day and night they go about on the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow in the midst of it. What's mischief? Mischief is taking that present moment and turning it to hell. Mischief is taking the gifts that we are constantly being offered by our source and turning them into trash, turning them into fear, turning them into to pollution in the astral pollution. That's what we do. Wickedness, and that's what worry is all about. That's what worry is. Worry is astral pollution that we're contributing to. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. Well, of course, deceit and guile won't depart from her streets because we still think we're in charge. We still think that we're in charge, and by the way that we take charge is by wanting to run away. We talked about that earlier. We just want to run away. And so we're in charge of the fact that we put these things there, and then the way we respond to that is by pretending that it's not there and we want to run away from it. So of course those things are going to run after us because they're ours. They want to come home to us. So what we need is not to try to fix this ourselves. We need to ask for help from the force of the universe that is already at home, that already understands that we are already at home, that already understands that all is well and that none of this is real. We can't understand that ourselves. We're not capable yet because we're in the midst of it. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that it did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, mine acquaintance, right? That's what we're talking about. It's our own creativity used against us. Our own worst enemy is ourself. We've done this. We've created all kinds of false thoughts and then pretended like we didn't. But now we're recognizing, whoa, this is supposed to be my friend. This is supposed to be my ally. What is this? Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. Okay? So hell in this sense is not hell meaning a place of torment. Hell is the place where we bury the dead. It's the underground. It's where it's the native nothingness that to which all false thought forms must return. So when we say when we're asking that death seize upon them and quickly down into hell, we're asking that these errant thought forms no longer exist, that they be neutralized, that they be gone. And we're asking the right place. We're not trying to do it ourselves for a change. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. So that's what I'm saying. We're facing the right place. We're facing the place where the solving of the problems can be. When we're trying to do it ourselves, we're just perpetuating them. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. Now this is the formula. You taking your mind away from your worry and putting it back on God. Evening, morning, and noon. You're going to do this. You're going to do this psalm or something like it, or have an affirmation or an incantation or a spell or something to anchor your mind on the truth. And you're going to come back to that truth again and again and again. And you're not going to let yourself go down those roads anymore. And you're not going to let those ego thought forms run amok. You're going to take charge of your mind. And you take charge of your mind by thinking of God, and you think about the qualities of God. Now remember that for us here today, we're calling on something that is higher than us to lift us out of our worry and the cause of our worries. So it's important that we recognize that we're asking for a law that is divine and eternal to supersede any of these little laws that we've made for ourselves. And you can ask for that. You can say, may divine law prevail here. May divine law prevail here, and that will get you out of any trouble. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. Okay, so again, this is common in the Psalms. When things are starting to take a turn, we put things in the past tense, as if it's already happened. So God's already done it. He's already delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. Now there were many with you that were against you in your mind, but there are many with you in your mind that are for you. There are still good thought forms. There are still, I shouldn't say good thought forms because it's not good versus evil. There are real thought forms. There are true thought forms rather than the false ones. The true thought forms God put there. At your creation. The who you are doesn't change just because you screw up your thinking. You can't change who you are. That's good news. So there were many thoughts with you, both for you and against you, and either way, God is taking you, lifting you off the battleground and placing you in peace, where is your right to be? That you're entitled to that peace. That's who you are. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old. Selah, because they have no changes, and therefore they fear not God. So it doesn't matter how old these patterns are, it doesn't matter how old these thought forms are, it doesn't matter how long you've had these problems or these worries, it doesn't matter how stuck in your ways you are. It really couldn't, it doesn't matter to God one way or the other. There's no such thing as a big problem or a little problem, a big worry or a little worry. It's all the same. It's all the same kind of darkness that doesn't exist to God's point of view. So he's already delivered your soul in peace from any battle. And all of the good thought forms, all of the true thought forms are delivered along with you, and all those thought forms are removed. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. So he put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. So that's the part of your mind that has broken its covenant with God. Your covenant with God is not some promise that you made in the past. Your covenant with God is, I am a divine child. I am as a sunbeam is to the sun. My function here is to light up this world. My function is to bring God's love everywhere I go, because that's who I am. That's what I'm here for. That's my covenant. So anytime you break your covenant is anytime you start worrying or getting down on yourself or getting down on other people or start getting involved in anything that's not shining love on the world. Okay? So it's not that you're bad, it's just that you broke that covenant. And so when you break that covenant, then you've turned your face away from truth, and then you wonder what the problem is. It's like going into a room and closing the blackout curtains during the middle of the day, and then complaining that there's no sunlight. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Now that's how the ego works, though. If the ego just came to you in your mind and said, hey, we're going to be horrible people, you wouldn't want to, you'd be like, okay, it's time to think a new thought. No, the ego is sly. The ego is very sly and cunning, and always makes you think it's a good idea. Don't you think it would be a better idea if we just did it our way? Don't you think it would be a better idea maybe if we just didn't do that, if we just ran away from this, or whatever your thing is? Don't you think it's a good idea to worry about this? If you don't worry about this, it could get worse. You know, it sounds like it makes sense in the moment. Yeah, you should really be worried, because that way you're protecting yourself from something. You know, when you hear it out loud, it didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm talking about. Your ego is sly, very cunning. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. Okay, now there's the formula right there. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. It doesn't say only if. Cast these kind of burdens, I can't handle these kind. These kind are insignificant, and these are important. Didn't say that. Just says, cast thy burden on the Lord, and he will sustain thee. Okay? So whatever it is, it's just that simple. Now, remember, the Lord doesn't mean an external deity. It means your source. It means your Father, Mother, God, right within you, right? I cast my burden on the Lord, and he sustains me. You can say that. You go out of here, I cast this burden on the Lord, and he sustains me. Whatever the burden is, whatever you're worried about, I cast this burden on the Lord, and he sustains me. And you keep saying that. If you have to say that 100 times in a day, say it 100 times. It'll stick. It'll stick. Use that. That's your little mini incantation that you can bring into your world with you. But thou, O God, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out their bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee. So that's a very old-fashioned way of saying, I have nothing to worry about. All these worries, all these problems, all these things that I've come up with, I'm casting them on the Lord, and the Lord's sustaining me, and he's bringing them away. He's bringing them into the native nothingness out of which they came, and I'm free from them, and I have nothing to worry about. And I can go forward and succeed. And that's a beautiful thing. All right, so this is how you work this psalm. Just keep coming back to it again and again until you start seeing all the movement in your goal, going toward your goal or going toward the relief of your situation. All right, I cannot wait to work with you again. And until that time, blessed be.